There's a story that my grandma would always tell about my dad from when he was a kid. Uh, they used to live by a country club, and one of the things that you could do was go be a caddy. You can be a volunteer caddy, and you would just wait out by the golf course, and the golfers would come out and they would select a caddy based on who was lined up, and usually would tip pretty well. And that was something that my dad really wanted to do. He was very excited about it. But I mean, he was young. He was a young kid, and so he would go and he would wait and just never get picked. I mean, these caddies are more experienced. They're waiting. They're older guys that are probably better at conversation and just more fitting for what you would expect out of a caddy. But he didn't stop. He just kept going, and he just kept waiting. And day in and day out, these regulars at the golf course started to notice this kid that just kept showing up, and they kind of respected that, and they kind of started to respect him. And all of a sudden, almost out of the blue, he was the busiest caddy there. Every one of these golfers were like, I will. This kid's committed. This kid's dedicated. He keeps coming out here. Nobody's picking him. We see him out here every day. He wants to do this. Let's give him the shot. And he would make big money, and he would come home so happy. And his brothers, they saw it happen, and they were like, how are you making this money? Like, how are you coming home with all this money? And he was like, I'm a caddy. I go and I caddy. And they were like, well, we want a caddy. Let's go caddy. We'll be caddies too. And they would go, and they would wait for about a day. And then they'd come home, and they'd be mad, and they'd be like, nobody picked us. Why would we be caddies? We don't want to be caddies. They didn't pick us. This is stupid. Like, this is ridiculous. We're not going to do it. And he would tell them every time, you got to put your sitting time in. You got to put your sitting time. You have to be willing to go out there and sit and wait and earn what you're working for. You can't just go out there and achieve what you want. You have to work for it. You have to wait for it. You have to put in your sitting time. And I have tried my best to live by that statement pretty much ever since, because when it comes to my dad, I don't think there's a better way of describing the type of man that he was than that story. It's just such a cool thing to me. And I remember the days where all I could do was cry, for no reason. Just didn't know how else to feel inside. And I remember thinking the world was out to get me. And now I realize that I had been my own worst enemy. My head has changed, those days are gone, but the world's the same, I feel alone. And the only thought that gets me by is each and every day I'm putting in my sitting time. And I still got a lot to learn, and I'm always in a battle between who I am and what I've learned. And oh, with every word I write and every rhyme, I'm constantly aware my day will come, and I'm just putting in my sitting time. Don't want a fast car or a mansion, just wanna help some people out. I want the world to stand and clap their hands when I play my music loud. Now I'm not saying I'm not happy, just feel I'm not doing enough. But they said Rome wasn't built in a day, no matter how badly I wish it was. And my head has changed, those days are gone, but the world's the same, I feel alone. And the only thought that gets me by is like my daddy said, I'm putting in my sitting time. And I still got a lot to learn, and I'm always in a battle between who I am and what I've earned. No, with every word I write, in every rhyme I'm constantly aware my day will come, and I'm just putting in my sitting time. I'm putting in my sitting time. Putting in my sitting time. Putting in my sitting time. Putting in my sitting time.
And I open the door and the guy's getting out of the car. I'm like, what the heck? He goes, hey, how you doing? I go, hey. He goes, I'm too tired to drive, you drive. And he jumped in the other side and fell asleep, and I drove for 5 hours.
That's so dangerous. I would never do that.
Yeah, well, people were a lot nicer back then.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
It was different. It really was.